Hey Russell fam, in today's video I am going to share with you a radio interview I got to do. Be back in just a second. Hi, my name is Becky and welcome to Russell's Loving Life. If you are new to our channel, we are so glad you are here. We also have a blog which is russellslovinglife.com, so make sure to check that out. And if you are a returning Russell fam, we are so glad you are back. In today's video, I got to do an interview with Kim Wade with WYAB. That is a local radio station here in Mississippi, and he had reached out and asked if I would come on and do a homeschool interview. With everything that's going on in the world today, he was getting a lot of questions about homeschooling, and so he just wanted me to come on the show and give out lots of information. So here is the interview, and I hope you enjoy it.
All right, folks, we're back. And it's Thursday. Glad to be back here in the studios again today. Folks, this is your host, Radio Strongman, Kim Wade. I am coming to you live from WYAB 103.9 FM. Well, folks, it is Thursday. We have a special, but the parents out there who have a real life dilemma as to how they're going to educate their kids, we brought into the studios using the full weight of my local influence, brought into the studios one Becky Russell, and she's going to be talking with us about homeschooling, a task she took on some years ago, and she has an opportunity to tell you some of the things that she experienced and what you could be looking at if you decide to go down that route. We also have her better half on the other, well, the other half anyway. I don't know if it's the better half. The other half, sitting over there. But anyway, we want to welcome you here to WYAB, Beck.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I have been asked tons of questions about homeschooling. Mm-hmm. I have been a homeschooling mom since 2012. I currently homeschool two, a kindergarten, or she's going into first grade, and a sixth grader. So it's quite interesting, homeschooling. Your first year, and when you think about homeschooling, is completely overwhelming. There's so much to think about. And I tell everybody, you can't look at the big picture. You got to take it a little bit at a time.
A day at a time.
Yeah, because you have your good days and your bad days.
So what we're going to be talking about this hour here is the whole prospect and possibility of you homeschooling your child. What you can expect to encounter, some of the things that she encountered rather, and what you may be experiencing also. Let's start out from, first of all, what made you do it, and what was your first step? What was your first decision after deciding we're going to do this?
Well, I never planned to homeschool. I got pregnant and I had a son who was 8 weeks early, and he had to be in the NICU. He got really sick. They didn't think he was going to make it. And so he came home from the hospital. Everything was good. We put him in daycare. The third day he was sick, and he stayed sick the entire time he was in daycare. His pediatrician said his body can't take it anymore. He's got to come out. So we decided that we just had to homeschool him.
Right, had to do what you had to do. Okay, and so that led to the homeschooling for him as a preschooler.
Yes, yeah, I started with him as a preschooler, and now he is currently going into sixth grade.
All right, so was there any thought about having to put him into public schools after? I mean, did you think he had grown out of whatever it was that was causing him to not be able to do the?
Oh yeah, his immune system has gotten better. It's fine. Okay. But we just decided, since we had already started homeschooling, we were just going to keep going. And then I ended up with his sister 5 years later, and we just continued to homeschool. All
right. Now, the homeschooling from an administration standpoint, what did you encounter? Because, of course, when he was in preschool, you didn't have any pushback from anybody other than just whatever time you spent with him. But when he became a public school age, what was all involved in that, getting certified, qualified, and approved by our betters in state government?
In Mississippi, we are only required to sign in or sign a form with our attendance officer every year. That's all we have to do is just go to the school, find out your attendance officer for your county, and just fill out the form and say you're going to homeschool. And that's all that is required in the state of Mississippi. Mississippi is a homeschool-friendly state.
Okay. Now, as you embarked on that, how did you decide what curriculum you're going to use? In other words, how do you know where you are, where the child is in terms of what they need to know, what they're supposed to know, as compared to other students? Because at some point they're going to be out in the real world. They're going to get, there's going to be like going to law school. Passing the bar is the equalizer. It doesn't make a difference whether you went where you went. Passing the bar is the equalizer. So.
There are tons of curriculums out there, and I started talking to other homeschool moms. I found a local homeschool group here in the Jackson metro area, and I just started asking them questions about curriculums. And one of them turned me over to My Father's World, which is a Christian-based homeschool curriculum. It's a boxed curriculum. It's an all-in-one, and it gives you everything you need, and they break it down for you. They say, okay, say this, do this, and that's what you do. And it goes right along with the grades. For each year, you just follow that curriculum, and I've stayed with it. Now, I've added a few things that I thought, like I added grammar. I thought Bailey needed more help with that, so I added grammar. And you just do what you have to do for your child to teach them the core subjects that they need to know.
All right. For those you out there in state of flux with you have all these varied interest groups right now, saying they don't want the schools to open, some want the online training and all this kind of stuff. What are your thoughts right now in terms of you looking at it from the outside, what parents are experiencing? Because I don't know how you homeschool some kindergartens and first graders on the computer for any length of time.
You can't. You lose their attention. And homeschooling, what the parents are having to do now, I don't consider it homeschooling. I know they're schooling their children at home, but that's not homeschooling. That's emergency learning that the parents have been thrown into, because with homeschooling, you get to pick your child's curriculum. You get to pick your schedule. You get to homeschool what you think is best for your child. But when you're doing this distance learning, you can't do that.
Right.
You have to do what the teacher tells you to do. And if you've got a full-time job, it's hard for you to teach one-on-one with a kindergartner or first grader.
Right.
They require that time that you have to sit there and work with them. And you can't just put them on a computer and say, here, go for it.
Right. Look, I know I can't even get on YouTube and stay on the topic that I'm looking for without getting off down rabbit trails as things pop up on the screen there, and you want, oh, look at this story. So the parents right now are again, let's just say conscientious parents would be concerned, is my child going to lose a school year while we adults try to pick lint out of our navels, trying to figure out how innovative we can be with this approach to the COVID and all this other things. So how has this affected you? You guys are just rolling right along?
We are just going, our day stays the same, other than we can't do our field trips that we usually do. And as homeschoolers, parents think we just sit at home and teach our kids.
Right.
Well, we don't. We're doing field trips. We're active. We're out doing things, volunteering in the community, and we're always on the go. So other than just us doing our basic schoolwork, we've been forced to stay home too.
Again, folks, we're talking with a homeschool parent here. If you have questions or comment as to what to expect, and I didn't know it was just that simple in terms of just reporting the attendance. Of course, it's not like, conscientious parents would not just skate and say, okay, now I don't have to do anything, let the child just kind of grow up like weeds educationally. That wouldn't be fair to the child. Do you teach whole school year round? How does that work?
It is up to the parent here in Mississippi. If you are looking into homeschooling, you've got to know your state laws. The Homeschool Legal Defense Association lists those laws for every state. It is legal to homeschool in all 50 states, so that is possible.
Right.
So, those parents that are struggling with the thought of homeschooling, you can do night schooling. There's a lot of parents that both work full-time and they homeschool their kids at night and on weekends.
Wow. I hadn't thought about that. Now, what does homeschooling entail? Is that just the parents' immediate family or the kids? Can it include cousins or neighbors or anything like that?
There are some that do homeschool their cousins, but we have to be strict about how we do things like that, because it does fall on us with, how we teach the children and keep up with the records. Here in Mississippi, we're not required to turn in anything. We're not required to take tests, state tests, or standardized testing, but I keep every record. My children take tests. They get graded. They get report cards. We do the full deal.
They can't hide a report card.
Nope, you got to show it to the
We know
principal.
you got it. Put on your other hat. Well, it sounds like you had good common sense and you had control of the household. So that's the major thing, I guess, is the discipline aspect of it.
It is.
It is. It makes a big difference, and my work situation was such that I got to spend a lot of time with my children, and it paid off.
Huh. Well, man, we appreciate that input, and congratulations on successfully navigating them to adulthood, and they've got college degrees, and you've done your part, my good information. We're talking with a homeschooling mom, and we're talking with Becky, and she is, how many years is this? 6? Your child's in the 6th grade.
It's 6th grade, and I've been doing it since 2012, so I've been doing it for 8 years, if you count as preschool years.
Right. Okay, so if you have any questions or comments, All right, we have let's just call her Miss Becky. She is a homeschooler of 2 kids, a 5-year-old and a 6th grader. So she's got a wide range of varied interests there, and one is full of energy, and the other one will sit still and do what they're told. That was the way my middle child was. You could tell her to sit. If I told her to sit in that corner, she'll sit there. To come back 3 days later, she'll still be sitting there. And but now she's gotten a little bit more wilder in terms. But now this homeschooling thing, what else you want people to know about?
There are tips that I want. I've got a website, which is russellslovinglife.com, and I also have a YouTube channel, which is Russell's Loving Life, that I give lots of tips and tricks and stuff that I have learned over the years of homeschooling. I have been homeschooling since 2012. The first thing, if you are thinking about homeschooling or if you are a new homeschooler, is know your state laws. Always know your state laws. Second is learn what works for your child, because what works for one child may not work for the other one. Don't ever compare yourself or your child to another homeschool family or yourself to another homeschool mom, because we all are different. Our children are different. There's no comparison. You can ask questions and they can tell you what works for them, but if you tried, it may or may not work for you. So never compare yourself to others. Find a homeschool group or a support group. That is the best thing I ever did. There are no dumb questions. So when you're with homeschool parents, homeschool moms, we love to answer questions.
What are some of the groups?
It is, let's see, there are...
Locally, ones that you're a part of, I guess.
Yes, we are part of Jackson Metro Homeschool Group. And there are a lot of them that you can find on Facebook. Some have guidelines to join them, others don't. So just check out homeschool groups on Facebook. I can research and get some more of those. Let's see.
Well, let me ask you. What about the the sports and things like that? Does the state require anything on exercise or anything like that?
It does not. The state of Mississippi does not require any form of sports. But I have my children in sports. My son is a 3rd-degree black belt, and he's in karate 5 days a week. And my daughter was in gymnastics and soccer, and she's fixing to start karate. So the state does not. I know there are several places that offer PE for children for a fee. You've just got to check them. They change different every year.
Okay.
There's local businesses that before COVID that would do homeschool things. Like first Monday of the month we'd go bowling. First Tuesday of every month we would go skating. So I mean, there was things that we did as a homeschool group, and all homeschool groups came together on that one.
All right, let's go to the phones. Let's go to Rick. Hey, Rick.
Hey, Tim, how you doing?
All right, what do you have for us, bro?
Okay, to you guess, if you homeschooling and your kids want to get involved in extracurricular activities like choir, football, and baseball, how would they go about doing that?
You would have to do that with your community. You cannot do that through the school. You would have to find your local city and join a sports league that way.
Mm-hmm. Now, the group that you meet with for homeschooling parents, they don't have a choir or baseball team or anything like that?
They do not. No, it's just where the kids get together and get to interact with each other for holiday parties and park days and just things like that.
Okay. So basically you're looking at Pee Wee League or the satellite football folks have out there in the park. But the trade-off, while we got Rick on the line, how many hours a day? Because I know the average school teacher probably puts in 12 hours a day by the time they get done filling out all the paperwork and grading papers and all that stuff. How many hours is the average homeschooler parent doing?
It just depends on the child and the grade they're in. Mm-hmm. With my first grader, her longest day is an hour and a half. Oh, okay. And that's just because she sits there consistently and goes through it. Mm-hmm. My sixth grader, if his longest day is 4 hours. Well,
let me ask you, Rick, you got any other comments, buddy?
Yes, one other question, Kim, and I'll hang up and listen.
Sure.
She mentioned on several occasions about know the laws. Now, when you speak of knowing the laws, what specific laws are you talking about?
The homeschool laws for the state of Mississippi.
Could you go a little bit in detail with that, please?
Yes. All we are required to do if you homeschool your child, if your child is currently enrolled in a public or private school, you have to formally withdraw them from that public or private school. And then you have to find out the attendance officer in your area. Your local school can tell you that for your county. And then you have to go in and fill out a form saying that you are homeschooling your child, and that's all you have to do for the state of Mississippi.
Okay, one second. All right, Rick. And listen, you can check out her videos online. What are those videos on the website?
It's russellslovinglife.com is the website, and on YouTube it is Russell's Loving Life, and I have information about our state laws and all on there.
All right. And we will also post that on the WYAB website for those who don't have time to write it down right now. Becky's husband is also an engineer, so they've got a technical background, and these are the type of things, folks. Look, there is another way. You don't have to just sacrifice your kids to the public school system, regardless of why you think the schools may or may not be meeting the needs of the kids. There are options. You just got to be willing to embrace it. And as Becky's pointed out, you're not spending because I mean, most people's mind when I think of schooling, I'm thinking a teacher standing there 8 hours, 6 hours a day on their feet, yada yada. How do you tackle? One day you do grammar, one day you do math, history. How does that work?
We do most of our core subjects every day. Mm-hmm. We have a special writing that we do twice a week. We do grammar 3 times a week, but we do math and history and science every day and spelling.
Right.
That we do. And so, it's when you're homeschooling your child, it's not just all about sitting in front of books.
Right.
Give them hands-on activities, make it fun. It doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be dull. If you've got an active kid like I do, you've got to get inventive and come up with, fun science experiments that they can do. And they learn from hands-on stuff more than they do just sitting there reading in a book.
That's interesting. Folks, this is a good opportunity for you to look into it. We don't know how the school thing is going to shake out. You've got adults out there pushing agendas to the detriment of the kids. The kids don't really know. I know if they told me that we weren't going to start school, I'd be ecstatic, okay? But now, as I've gotten older, I realize the long-term damage all this foolishness is having on these kids. So if you are looking for a different direction, you can check out her website. Again, the website is what?
russellslovinglife.com.
russellslovinglife.com. And you're also on Facebook?
I am. It's Russell's Loving Life on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, Twitter. You can message me through any of those, or you can message me or send me an email at Becky at russellslovinglife.com.
What about hiring out of professionals in areas that the parent may or may not be strong in? I know my child would be really mad if I had to teach them math and algebra and stuff like that. They would be terribly
Well,
upset.
there are online courses that you can sign your children up for and pay for that, where the teachers teach them stuff that you can't do.
Right.
And There's always co-ops where, homeschool families get together and say, I'm good in math and terrible in English. Well, there could be a mom that's great in English.
Right.
So you trade it off that way.
All right, folks, we're back, and it's Thursday, folks, and we have Becky Russell in the studios, and she's a homeschooler. And, folks, she's got a lot of resources out there that she's making available to anyone who wants. And if you want to contact her, you can do it through her Facebook page. It's Loving Russell.
Russell's Loving Life.
Russell's Loving Life on Facebook. And if you have any problems, you can call the station, email me, Facebook me if I'm not in jail, Facebook jail. You can do any of those things, and I'll get you the information. The information is up on our WYAB page right now if you need contact information for them. What else do you have over there you was going to tell us?
Curriculums.
Curriculum, yeah.
A lot of parents start looking into curriculums and freak out about the price, sticker shock. You don't have to pay an arm and a leg to educate your child. There are tons of free websites. There's Khan Academy. They teach you math, science, computer programming, history, art, and a lot more. Then there's easy peasy all-in-one homeschool curriculum. I recommend that one for first-time homeschoolers or any form of all-in-one boxed curriculums because it gives you everything that you need, so you're not overwhelmed or stressed. It lays your day out for you and gives you all the information you need to teach that day.
Folks, there's some good information out there, and if you're thinking about it, as I'm talking with them, it's not, well, of course, I'm not doing it, but it doesn't appear to be as taxing as I thought homeschooling would be because I've got the parameters of public school in my mind as the framework. And what she's pointing out is that, you have pretty much the discipline problem addressed by virtue of the fact that, they know your mom and your dad and they expect certain type of behavior and there's certain behavior they won't tolerate. So it makes teaching a little easier.
It does. And like you were talking about the public school thing, I went to public school. My husband went to public school. And, I had that in my mind when I started teaching. I'm like, oh, great. I got to sit here and teach, for this many hours. And you don't. And I mean, it's not, you have to sit there and teach them for straight 8 hours. You teach them the basics that they need, and that's all you do.
Right.
And then you get to have fun with them. You get to sit on the couch and do read alouds. You make it fun. It doesn't have to be painful for everybody because if you're suffering, your kid's going to suffer and they're not going to learn anything either. So you make it fun for yourself, make it fun for them, and you get to enjoy the little moments that you have with your children.
What kind of field trips have you incorporated over the years?
Oh, there's lots of field trips. Museums. We've been to the USS Alabama. We've been to Stennis on the coast. We have been to Pensacola, to the Blue Angels. We've been to a medical museum in Alabama. So, I mean, there's lots of places here. But anytime we travel or go on vacation, I try to take opportunity to take a homeschool field trip, go somewhere educational and fun.
Now, you spoke about the groups of support parents. Do they do things as a group in terms of field trips, or what all can someone expect from that group?
Every group is different. They have all different guidelines. The group that I'm a part of, which is Jackson Metro Homeschool Group, we do planned field trips. They do park days. They do nature walks. They do board game days. They do video game days. They do lots of fun things where kids can interact. So if your child's not in sports, you don't have to worry about, as everybody says, is your child socializing? So, you've got all the opportunities for them to interact. And the best part of, homeschooling is that for me is my children can carry on a conversation with a 2-year-old or a 92-year-old. And that's part of them interacting with other homeschool families.
Right.
Because they're not just interacting with peers in their same age group. They interact with lots of different ages.
What has been the experience? I know you say that there are testing, entrance tests that they go back into the public schools. What about the SATs and LSATs? Is there anything required of them?
If they're going to college, they are required to take the ACT, SATs, all that stuff that they need for college. As I have not gotten to homeschooling a high schooler yet, but I have been told from several that if they're going to a junior college, they just have to take a placement test plus their standardized testing and just write them a transcript and go from there.
Very interesting. Folks, there's a lot of resources out there if you've been thinking about it. And just think, just the cost of not having to shuffle the kids back and forth. Some of you parents don't want the kids to ride the bus. It's dangerous to ride the bus, and you can eliminate all that. And again, the school day doesn't have to be the traditional school day if you have to work around your schedule. You were talking about someone who was a nurse who, homeschooled on the...
Oh, yeah. Big thing now is night schooling, where parents homeschool when they can. They homeschool on weekends. They homeschool at night. Some kids even focus better at night because they've gotten all their energy out. Really hyper children focus better. So you don't have to think traditional school when you homeschool. You do what works best for you. And being a homeschooler, flexibility is the whole part of homeschooling. I know some states require you to homeschool for 180 days. That's not required here in Mississippi, but, some states do require that.
Right. One of the things is, as you pointed out, is the kids getting the fundamentals. If you spend those 1 or 2 hours a day and they master grammar, they master sentence writing and all that stuff, they've got the fundamentals to be able to do the history and study and all the doing the reading and everything else they need to do.
They do. And, with Bailey being in 6th grade, I'm teaching him to learn on his own, teaching him to be independent. So when I have to work one-on-one with my 6-year-old, he'll go over and sit and do math and read the lesson from the book. And if he has a question, then he'll ask me. But other than that, I let him try to learn. So I'm teaching him to learn so he can always learn.
So you're teaching him how to think.
Yes.
Folks, there's a lot of opportunities here to this COVID shutdown is allowing us to redo things. I think the educational establishment, in their attempt to affect their narrative and their politics, don't realize that they're unleashing a new way of thinking in terms of people's hearts and minds and what they can do with their kids. So everything is going to change, and I just ask that you give this some consideration. There's a lot of resources. One of the starting points I would suggest is you check out the website there. That website is
russellslovinglife.com.
And it's also Russell's Loving Life on Facebook. And you can start there. If you have any questions, you can communicate with Becky. She'll be glad to communicate back and let you know to the extent that she can provide resources where you can go get information that you need.
And I've also got videos on YouTube. If you look for Russell's Loving Life on YouTube, there's a lot of homeschool science experiments on there. Fun things that you can do for any age group, because Bailey and Becca both were in the videos when we did them. So that's fun, family-friendly science experiments that you can do. I answer lots of questions in videos on there, so that's also a good place to start.
Well, and the other question that kids want to know is, how's the cafeteria food?
Well, it depends on the cook that day. It depends on if Dad's home and he's grilling steaks, or if Mom's in a hurry and we got to get somewhere, we're having hot dogs. So, it just depends on that day.
You can always come up to Europie in Gluckstadt. Have pizza your way. Kids love it up there. Well, that's good to know. Folks, we're talking with Becky Russell. She's a homeschooling mom, and she's very encouraging. We encourage you to give it your consideration. It is a challenge, but it's not as taxing as you think it would be, and it's a very rewarding when you see the light bulb go off in your child's eyes when they master something and learn something. And remember, you can do it without having to subject your kids to all the foolishness that can be brought to bear to these kids in a public school setting. So you may be in a public school that does well and doesn't have all the foolishness. I know some of the rural areas are a lot better. But if you're in an area where you're worried about your child being able to go to school safely on the bus, being able to use the restroom, all those things are something that go into you making the decision whether to homeschool. All right, folks, we're back. The final few minutes of the first hour of the Kim Wade Show. We've had Miss Becky Russell here in the studios, a homeschooling mom, and telling us the ins and outs of what it takes to be a homeschooler. And I think it's very encouraging. I think the information you've given us, Becky, is very encouraging. So,
well, that was the reason I started my blog and my YouTube channel, is because I wanted to be that support for someone that may not have it. Because if you live in rural areas, you may not have a support group or know any other homeschool moms. So I got so much support my first year that I just wanted to pay it forward to those and let them, me be that support for them that they need.
What about your 6th grader? Has he been chomping at the bit to go to public schools or go back, be in the crowd or whatever?
Every once in a while, he'll say something about wanting to go to school just because he's never been.
Right.
I think that's the whole point of it. And all of his friends are like, dude, you don't want to go to school. You want to stay home. You can homeschool in your pajamas, and you don't have to get up at the crack of dawn. And So our schedule's, pretty flexible, and every once in a while he'll say something about it, but I think it's just because he doesn't know what to expect.
Right. Yeah. I guess that they have a bring a homeschooler to school today. Day rather.
Show and tell day. He can
Show
go.
and tell. That would be interesting, folks. Again, the resources are there for you to be able to make an intelligent decision. How much lead time do they need? Is this something you got to wind up to? You got to start at the 1st of January or the 1st of fall? Or
no, you don't. We typically homeschool from the end of September to the end of July.
Mm-hmm.
That's just our homeschool schedule because that's what works for us.
Mm-hmm.
Once everybody goes back to work and to school, we typically go on vacation. And it's hot outside anyway, so during the month of July, we're typically homeschooling. Mm-hmm. So there is no set start date or finish date. There are year-round homeschoolers. With us this year, that's going to be us because we've taken some breaks here and there. So we will finish up by the end of August, and then we will start back about the end of September, so we won't have much of a break.
Is there anything out there right now, either on your website or elsewhere, where people can get a sample? Let's say the public schools here, they're talking about they're not going to really open up until September or whatever the case may be, that they can go out there and say, well, let me give this a try for a couple of weeks. Is there, some curriculum?
Easy peasy, all in one. That is strictly online. You can print stuff off there. It's free. I would check that one out if they were looking for something to do. It lays out their day for them so they won't have to put things together. Pinterest, you can always go Pinterest. They've got all kinds of free printable stuff that way. On my YouTube channel, I've got lots of flip throughs or do lessons with us type things where you can see the curriculums that we're using. But there's nothing on there that you can print off and just go ahead and do.
And you were saying something about the Khan Academy.
Yes, Khan Academy is also another free one where you can do math and science, history, art, and all kinds of subjects on there. And that one is free. So if you're looking for something free for your children to see how you're going to like it, just know that there is a transitional period that everybody calls deschooling. If your child is currently enrolled in public or private school, they're used to a schedule, a strict schedule, certain things. If you start trying to teach your child full homeschooling, there's going to be a transitional period. There's going to be a time where you've got to learn how you're going to teach your child. I had to learn my teaching style, and I had to learn my kids' learning styles.
Right.
One's a visual one, one's a hands-on. So you've just got to go through that transition, and it's going to be rough at that point. Homeschooling is great once you get over that little hump. I know I didn't have to go through that deschooling period, but I know public school teachers, private school teachers that have come home to homeschool their kids, they said they had to go through that process as well. So just know that there's going to be some hiccups, a few little bumps, but everybody has good days and bad days, and don't let that be your first thought that, oh, this is terrible, I've made a mistake. Just give it a while and take some field trips and just take some breaks when you need them.
Right. Is there I want to thank you for coming in. Give out those websites again.
Yes, go to russellslovinglife.com, and you can follow me on Facebook, on YouTube, it's Russell's Loving Life, Instagram, it's Russell's Loving Life. Pretty much all social medias, just check out Russell's Loving Life.
So just type it in. I want to thank you for coming in. It's great information. It's been very informative for me. We want to thank you, folks. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in about 8 minutes.
I hope you found this interview to be fun and informative. If you have any questions, drop it down in the comments below. I will be happy to answer any questions that you have. And as always, remember to be kind, be careful, be considerate, and have a great day. Bye.